Hey, Croeso, Croeso, Croeso! Welcome back to Britain's Hidden History with me, Ross Broadstock, on a Sunday evening, live at 8 o'clock every week. And wow, we got a controversial one tonight, and I can see comments already coming in. So, episode number 118. And they said it would never last. Right, take it away, Leon. Leon? Right, hello, evening, Kenneth Mackay, first one on. Hello, good to see you, congratulations. Ian Briggs, the topic tonight, if you've seen the heading, is but I get into the deep stuff. The stuff we used to avoid, Wilson and Blackett avoided for decades. And an amazing thing is you bring out a book like Where Jesus is Buried, and you talk about the true origins of Christianity and who Jesus really was and all that. And people don't, a lot of people get very, very emotional upset about it, but generally it's not much attention. It's very difficult these days, isn't it? But anyway, some very tough stuff. Did Paul actually invent Christianity? And why? Was it done for political expediency? So we look at the politics of the time and a lot more detail into Paul. Right. Ian Briggs, let's explain some of the comments, otherwise they wouldn't make sense. So Ian Briggs, I discovered this much at a dinner party 2 years ago. You can be a senior rector, an Oxford University professor, and know nothing about the Cymric traditions and royal contribution. Yeah. Good evening, Marshall. A lot of early birds tonight. Yes, everyone bar me was early. Thank you very much, Leon. Thank you. Marshall, my charge. All right, okay. Just a bit of chat there. Licensing Niceni. Oh, I don't know if that comes into it. So good evenings, Ron P. Andrew Whelan's there. Good to see it. Hi, Niall Murray. Right, it's a really good chat before I even get started. Andrew, right, let's just go straight to the show. Just a few more hellos. How many people we got? Oh, loads of people online. Wow, and it's going up by the second. Ross and Farm will be fashionably late. Oh, only a few minutes, just after 8. Just giving people a chance to log in. A couple of last minute technical problems, didn't we? Not mentioning anybody. Leon.
It was Arnie's
Not blaming any Arnie's fault, was it?
Yeah, he said
I was ready, wasn't I? I was ready this week.
I was ready.
You were ready this week. We're going to blame Arnie's this weekend. Charging in a minute, make my life a nightmare. But here we go. Well, there's a bit of chat on the board first. Right, okay. Now we got some fun stuff as well. So I'll tell you what, let's just go straight in there. I'll say a little bit more about if you haven't seen this book, Where Jesus is Buried, I will be adding to it, but this is the source for all of this. And the story, which I think most of the people watching will be aware of, is that the Christianity is not what we're presented with. And what we have here is a situation whereby everyone is very wrapped up with the events rather than the message, which should be the key thing. So this is not a religious channel. We're doing this as a historical exercise, as an academic exercise, looking at what the sources tell us and then trying to put the picture together, primarily drawing on Wilson and Blackett. And they explained there that after the crucifixion, the Holy Family, with Jesus, went to Britain. They married into the British royal family, which were related peoples, and from there you get the royal descent, which is why you get Saint, lots of place names with Saint on them all over Wales, and various other things that come into it. Founding of churches, founding of Christianity, which of course is more or less the opposite of what the mainstream version is, whereby the Christianity came to Britain in the 6th century with Austin, St. Austin, and the Angles and the Saxons and all that. Anyway, we'll get on to all that. And if you're new to the channel, you're very, very welcome. What we'll do here is look at, try to dive into the history books, go right back to original sources, and lots of writers, mostly Wilson and Blackett, but also Collins Beaumont, and Velikovsky, and various other peoples. I like Fomenko, the Russian historians. Different sources to try and get some different views. We're in this world at the moment where there's like one view, and that's it. You've got the correct view, if you like. And if anyone else wants to, what's happened there? Excuse me a second. Hey, the picture's disappeared. That was weird. Is it still okay on yours there, Leon?
Yeah, still you.
Did you see that then?
Yeah.
It just disappeared. Sorry about this.
Did you press delete or something? Or like a bus? Or
I don't know. Must have done.
hotkey.
Right, okay. Anyway, I'm trying, it's gone on, most shows gone on a couple of hours the last couple of weeks. I'm trying to shorten that down. I've got a very big day tomorrow, I need lots of energy for. Doing some filming with someone, I would say, quite famous. To be on one of their programs, and I'm the guide, and I'm not always the best at doing that, so Normally I like being the one doing the interviewing and asking other people to share their knowledge. But tomorrow, so I need to get good sleep, early start tomorrow, and Tuesday, a separate person, separate filming event, and I'll tell you a little bit about that one actually, because this is going to be, going to film it and do a little special edition on it. Not a normal area to look at, it's to do with World War II, which is normally well outside. Normally we look at pretty ancient stuff, up to about 1000, say, when the Norman arrival of the Normans, well, even a bit further than that, well, probably 1200, Tudors, all right, up to the 1500s, all right, 17th century, 18th century, but primarily we're looking at ancient stuff, and particularly what you might call Arthurian Britain, the Dark Ages, those kind of things. Anyway, one of the things in World War II, which again plays a little bit on the connections between the west of Britain and northern France, is the D-Day invasions, which was the biggest amphibious assault anywhere in the world, supposed to be in history. And what is gradually being dropped out of more modern history is that the fleets and things like the docks and that kind of stuff, the Mulberry harbours they built, all these wonderful things, a lot of it set off from Barry. South Wales is a major holding point for what was going on for the D-Day invasions. And I know my father's telling me stories that not far from where I am, Abercullen, the playing fields and the cricket pitch was ruined. Anyway, that became an American army camp. American soldiers are stationed all over South Wales. And it was wonderful. Lots of great things happened. Particularly, slightly controversial, but particularly a lot of the black American soldiers were amazed at how friendly South Wales were, how, people invite them into their homes, they went for meals and teas, and they were allowed to, date the daughters and all sorts of stuff, and they had a great time. And how wonderfully open South Wales was. But this applies to other areas across Britain as well. All this was going on across Britain. But getting to the point of what's happening this week is that there was a load of buildings in Barry, obviously from this massive, massive operation that took place. And over time, all these buildings and any trace of what happened in World War II has gone. It's been destroyed. And there's one building left, one tower. I don't know the specifics yet. I'm not going to give out any specific details yet anyway, because as you'll see, it's a little bit sensitive. So someone who I'll be showing on next week's show or on a special edition has been campaigning hard for months. Actually, I'll tell you, it's Carl James Langford, who does brilliant stuff, campaigning South Coast, Vale of Glamorgan, protecting history, all this kind of stuff. He has campaigned to have custody of this last memorial, if you like, the last building. I mean, amazing. All the stuff that went on, it's all gone. No thought of their future or history or anything like that. All destroyed. Apart from this one, it's a building or something. And he was looking for somewhere to put that, and we got talking. I know a bit of land that's available, and we're going to put it on there. So Tuesday, we're going to be filming how we move it, how we set it up. It's going to be, but I know very little about it. So it's a busy old week and quite exciting. A little bit different to what we thought when I sort of started reading about Wilson and Blackett and King Arthur and that kind of thing. I didn't expect to be revising the Bible, going back and learning about how to read hieroglyphs, drawing maps of South American currents and how to sail, read boats. It's amazing where this goes. The more you dig into it, it's fantastic, and it's just there's just no time in life for some of the crass and rubbish that you see on I don't know, tittle tattle, if you like, soaps and all that. I don't know how people have time to even look at those things when it's just this amazing, much better real stories to get into, and so much history in Britain, and so much is hidden and being lost all the time. But I always like to say it's not lost yet. It's not destroyed yet. It's just hidden. And it's not that even that well hidden, some of it. So we can go and find it, all right? And we can look at it. Okay. So let's do a couple of little items before we get going. I'm just going to check that's come up because there's a bit of a delay. Yes. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about. And the significance of the statue on the left. And some more statues similar to that. I'll be showing those. And how the British Museum is playing a little trick on us. Again. Either that or they really don't know what they're doing. So you take your choice on that one. Is it very clever subterfuge, or is it really they don't know? Right, something completely different. Next Saturday, I will be there. I will be there with a stand. We're there with the boys. We'll be selling books and pictures and all that kind of thing. Please come along if you want to say hello, if you want to meet me. If you want to come along, it's a good day anyway. Wonderful Porthcawl. I think the weather forecast is good. As you can see, the palm trees there, it's not far from the beach. Everything fantastic. And it's been organised, well, primarily between good friends of the show, Lloyd and Danny. They have their holistic healthcare as their company, do lots of great stuff. So there's going to be loads of, it's very sort of healthy and natural, homemade items. So what have we got here? Natural health products. There's someone there, Mark, who's doing some talks about dealing with debts and unfair debts and things like that. Lots of jumble, children's stores, games. I'm sure there'll be some food there and things like that, and it'll all be good fun. Like I say, I will be there as well, okay? So I'm looking forward to that next Saturday. Because, although, get there early, because I might have to shoot off pretty much, might have to leave a little bit early, because we're doing something very intellectual next Saturday, and we're, for my birthday weekend, we're going to go to, after saying I'm saying how highbrow we should all be studying history and not looking at things like soaps and that, we're going to be watching the professional wrestling. So you have some fun in life as well, haven't you? So, and that starts a bit earlier than we thought. So come along to that on Saturday. And then we'll be seeing you for the Americans are coming over, the World Wrestling Federation. Oh dear. Right, okay, there we are. It's a funny one. Thank you, Gail Norman, for posting that on the Britain's Hidden History Facebook group, which you're welcome to join. It's very friendly and polite and happy. It's not like some of the rucks you see online. Right, for crying out loud, you never end a sentence with a bird symbol, which I found very amusing, particularly, if you remember last week when I was doing some of the Cymroglyphics and how to read hieroglyphs. Funny enough, it's almost like you do, because you'll see loads and loads and loads of birds, or the one they've drawn there is more of, that'd be more of a wren or a chick. That'd be a chick, so that's to do with loyalty and sincerity and stuff. But the big birds, they do mark the beginning of a sentence. So it'd be a case of, so you never end a sentence with a bird, you do start one though. So it's always funny. So thank you for that, Gail. Right, David Mosley, this is quite a long one. And I put it up because it's from the Britain's Hidden History group again. Thank you, David, I would say. Good Welsh boy living over in Europe. Now, I'm just going to read this quickly because it does tie in what we're doing tonight, okay? Right, so we got the Anglican Church in Wales. If you don't know about this, if you go to any churches in Wales, I could have put some pictures up, couldn't I? There's the one you should really go to is Llanillid, and I keep meaning to go there because they have. I'll find the date. There's Saints' Day. I think it's in October, so look forward to that. They'll be amazed, wouldn't they, if suddenly 20, 30 people turn up for a church service on a Sunday, because this is right next to the core, which is where the ancient circle, core, like the root of the English word circle and things like that. The ancient Welsh word core has also been choir and church, all rooting from the same word. And you can visit the core there. It's amazing. You'll see some videos if you test Llanillid, type that in the search. You can find videos with testing the acoustics and trying to work out were people standing on the sides with the speaker in the middle, or was he up on the bank? And it's fascinating. Possibly the first Christian worship site in the world, although I think it's even older, and it had been used for the Druidic or whatever the previous religion was, all right? We'll come on to that a bit. And next to it, ironically, of course, is a church in Wales church. Not the church, in England you have the Church of England, the Anglicans, and in America, I think that's what becomes the Episcopalians. Apologies if I got that slightly wrong. In America, it's the same thing, Church of England. Well, in Wales, it's not the Church of Wales, it's the Church in Wales. You should put brackets, Church brackets of England, put close brackets in Wales. So David explained this. Excuse me, I had a tickle on my throat. Right, so the Anglican Church in Wales is an English church. The Church of Wales predates the English church altogether. Oh, and David also said, don't shoot the messenger when he put this up. He's just quoting here, right? Okay. And he's also making a point explaining what's happened, not that he's done it. Right, according to the Church of England website, thank you, David, Anglicans trace their Christian roots back to the early church. So what do they mean by that? By this, they mean the British Church of the Welsh, because the Britons had Christianity, I think it's David adding this, because the Britons had Christianity well before the English, when they were still worshipping the deity called Odin. Yet, this is clearly impossible, because the early Christian church was a completely different form of Christianity than the Anglican version, Church of England version. And the original is called Gnostic Christianity in Britain. Gnostic Christianity does not have a political hierarchy framework. Very important. Good points David is making here. That's the biggest one, really. There's no hierarchy. In the ancient, what we're going to go on to, we see what we'd call the original Christianity, perhaps, or at least one form of it, is there's none of this, you having to intercede via a priest, bishops, archbishops. You have a direct relationship with God. And the way this would work, very similar to the Essenes and what you see in the story of Jesus, where you have a group of close followers. You preach with them, or they're like apostles for a length of years, like an apprenticeship type situation. And then when they're ready, they go off and then they preach their own group. And there's up and up and up structure where you're told what to think and how to pray and all that kind of stuff. So Gnostic, some people say Gnostic. I had to pronounce the G because I'm not really good at spelling and it helps you remember. And I think it probably should be said Gnostic. I know people laugh when I say that, particularly Luke, who I need to see soon. So Gnostic comes from the word gnosis, which means to have a spiritual knowledge. This esoteric version of Christianity was likely easily adopted by Druids of Britainshidentified, which is the legitimate Great Britain prior to the 1707 misappropriation. Yeah, Britain as we call it today was a term, as David says here, stolen or adopted in 1707 after the union between England and Scotland. Originally it's the ancient Britain, pre-Saxon Britain. 1707, around about that era, that's when all the history got changed. I mean, if you are new to this channel, lots and lots of changes happened around about 1700. Everything got rewritten. There was unpopular Germanic puppet kings on the throne. The real power of the country, as it probably still is, was being run from behind the scenes by the power brokers. And there was a battle going on between the power brokers. On the one hand, you got the old money, the landed gentry, the land. They were very much supporting the king, and they'd be under the Whigs title. We've got these wrong way around. But anyway, you got the landed gentry, the old money, the wealth, supporting the Stuart kings and the old way of life. And then you've got the new money, the city, the mercantile classes, the trades, who were becoming millionaires, vastly rich. And just by their philosophy was anyone, if blessed by God, if you like, but anyone through hard work, if you've got the money, you're as good as the next bloke. You can have just as big a house, or woman, just as big a house, wear the nice clothes, and you bow down to no one. And that's very much a kind of British attitude. So this contest is going on, and the city, if you like, won. And that's when the coup took place, and the Stuarts were kicked out, and we started having foreign puppet kings, as we've had ever since. Oops, slightly controversial. Right, so anyway, it has been said that the leaders of the early British church, refused to submit to the teachings and leadership of the English church. And for that reason, the English stated that they would bury the teachings of our church forever. That's the British-Welsh church. According to Winston Churchill, thus at the opening of the 7th century, Ethelbert and Augustine summoned a conference of the British Christian bishops. The place chosen in the 7 valleys on the frontier between the English and British Welsh domains, far outside the bounds of the Kentish kingdom. If British Christianity would not accept the fair offers now made, the whole influence and prestige of Rome would be thrown against them upon the English side. And this is what's happened. The Saxon armies would be blessed and upheld by Rome and the unbroken traditions of the main Christian church, and no sympathy would be felt for these long faithful British Christians when they had their throats cut by the new English convert states. If, the saint exclaimed, you will not have peace from your friends, you shall have war from your foes. It was a language they understood. The conference separated in enmity. The breach was irreparable. All further efforts by Rome through Ethelbert and the Kentish kingdoms to establish even the slightest contact with Christian Britain were inexorably repulsed. So that's Wales and Cornwall. The birth of... So that's Winston Churchill wrote that. And this is like an acknowledgement that this history did exist, it was there, and it's been battered since the 6th century, and this history is still getting battered, it's still getting hidden, and what we do on this channel is revealing that, and you'll see some of that tonight, okay? So this is why it's the Anglican Church in Wales, that's what it should be, the full title, rather than the Church of Wales, which it replaced. So there's some links and some, thank you, Dad, for that. Nice to have an article with links and everything, very powerfully put. Very good. Cheers. Right. Wow, we're going straight in. Yeah, I haven't got much news today because I want to try and keep it a little bit shorter. Becoming marathons lately, aren't they? Let's get into this. Right, Leon, can you turn the computer this way because I really need to read the comments because I know people have loads of things to say about this. It's one of these sort of more controversial topics. Thank you, thank you. Right, we got any comments so far? Let's have a look, see what we got.
Yeah, quite interesting.
Oh, quite interesting comments already. Okay, let's read that then. Can you scroll up slightly? Wow, there's loads of comments. Can you scroll up there, please, for me? Right. Okay, that'll do. Yep. I'm pretty sure Anglicans and Welshicans, David Church, do not trace their Christian roots back to the ancient British Church. They trace back to the Catholic Church that was reformed when Henry VIII broke from Rome. Aha, right. Well, I think that's what we're going to try and show the difference. That there was a church way before the Roman Church. What have I done, Leon? Oh, God, I'm going to break two computers at the same time. So I'll have a look on here. I think it's a bit easier. There we go.
Yeah, it's difficult on this. Can't tell where you're clicking.
As long as it's on one. Yeah. Oh, hang on. There we are. I get to see the things then. Oh, I didn't mean to put that on screen. Okay, right. Right, okay, hang on a second. Well, there's loads of weird comments. Right, let's go back to what I was saying there. David Church, I can confirm the welcome to American soldiers. They're apparently quite surprised because back in the USA they're still subject to considerable racism. Yes, indeed, that should be celebrated. Andrew Whelan, Carl's James Langford is very committed to putting it out there. Good work, Carl. Yes, we disagree on quite a few things. Most noticeably things like Romans in Britain and stuff like that. But there we go. Don't sell the boys who'd miss them. I'll try not to. I'm not sure where this come from. Oh, right, yeah, where's this thing in Porthcawl? Yeah, I'll put the address back up in a second. Hang on a second. Right, David Church, I'm pretty sure... Right, that's we just read that one out. I'm Gnostic NDE, says Tony Trismegistus Roberts. I don't know what NDE means. If you could explain that, that'd be good. I think the nearest we have in modern churches, I would think, is something like the Unitarian Church, which I'm going to go along to a service. I know Yolo McGannog was a Unitarian. You wouldn't learn that listening to the academics of the Oriental Institute, says Ian Briggs. Marshall Abrahams, agreed. My theory is the Anglican Church was an attempt to return to British Apostolic Church roots. We haven't finished the journey yet. Yeah, well, this is the thing, because if you look, it's called, we generally refer to it as Protestantism, but it wasn't a protest, it was a reformation. So Henry VIII, at least, claimed that the idea was to restore, that's what it's called, restoration, restore the original British Church. Alan Wilson, I think, would argue that what he really did was create a carbon copy of the Roman Church and put himself at the head instead of the Pope. And that's still not the British Church. But, right, okay, Suzanne Price, God is the high almighty force, energy, God is love. And high vibrational energy, yes, God is light, universal intelligence. Same energy runs through Earth, meridians, hours, meridians. Ian Briggs, modern day Anglicanism is journeying to wokedom. And I can very tragically, I'll be careful what I say here, but anyway, I would say this similar thing is happening to the Welsh chapels based on my personal experience. I was a chapel goer until a couple of years ago. I'm not sure whether to go back or not now. Right, they rejected the prayer book. Right, okay. Oh, hello, Monica. I didn't see a login. Oh, good evening, Monica. Right, okay, so, wow, loads of people on. Brilliant. I thought this would be, people enjoy this. Right, let's go back to the slideshow. Oh, hang on. Why have I got lots of slides here? Just to confuse me, that is. Yeah, I was going to show Monica's thing as well. Monica's put something up earlier on the Facebook group, and I forgot to copy it over. I'm very sorry, Monica. I will blast. I have to put it on next week's now. That's annoying. Something seems to go wrong with the show here, so we'll just carry on from here. We'll just dive straight in, okay? Right, so what I'm going to try and do now is give a bit of a background on, first of all, don't have to read all this. This is, thank you, Angie, putting some slides together for me. This is just lifted straight from Wikipedia, just to give people some background, to make sure we're seeing on the same hymn sheet as to what the official version is of who Paul was, right? Because Paul is the key figure. So is Peter. We could do that another time, but Paul is the one, very strange and interesting character. And the things we're going to talk about, just to make it clear, that Alan Wilson shows in his book, they're all things that are... hang on, I got a message there from Lloyd, tell me about the show. 99% of it is things that's either mostly in the Bible, the vast majority, and some extracts from Josephus. Oh, yeah, and it will be I got a message there. Don't mind you mentioning the shop as well. Yeah, at the show in Porthcawl, there'll also be all the health shops there. Holistic Health, they do great stuff. Highly recommend it. Keeping me on the healthy side. Hang on. Come on, Ross. Oh, you turn that off, please, Leon. Where's the address again for the Porthcawl one? Just let you know. Yeah, the Griffin Hall. Griffin Hall, CF36 5DN. Right, okay. Right, so anyway, like everyone should know, I think everyone knows the story of Paul. I'll just read this quickly. So he's commonly known as Paul the Apostle or Saint Paul. He was a Christian apostle who spread the teachings of Jesus in the first century world. Did he? Generally regarded as one of the most important figures of the apostolic age, he founded several Christian communities in Asia Minor and Europe from the mid-40s to the mid-50s. Remember those dates. He started in the mid-40s, according to this. According to Alan Wilson, Christianity began in Wales about 37 AD, so already he's behind the clock. Jesus is already in Britain by the time he's preaching. Anyway, according to the New Testament book, Acts of the Apostles, Paul was a Pharisee. He had participated in the persecution. Right, this is the key. So he started off in the persecution of early disciples of Jesus. Possibly Hellenized diaspora Jews converted to Christianity in the area of Jerusalem prior to his conversion. So the official line here is very much that you've got a Jewish community, some of which have converted to Christianity, and Paul is there persecuting them, sorry. So sometime having approved of the execution of Stephen, so he's actively killing followers of Jesus, whether or not they're Christians is a bit of a moot point. At this stage, it's been early to call them that, really, but anyway. So Paul was travelling, this is the famous bit, Paul was travelling on the road to Damascus so that he might find any Christians there and bring them bound to Jerusalem. Bound being tied up, I think he means. At midday, a light brighter than the sun shone around him and those with him, causing all to fall to the ground with the risen Christ, verbally addressing Paul regarding his persecution. Having been made blind, along with being commanded to enter the city, his sight was restored 3 days later by Ananias of Damascus. After these events, Paul was baptized, beginning immediately to proclaim that Jesus of Nazareth was the Jewish Messiah and the Son of God. This is where that begins. Approximately half of the content of the book of Acts deals with the life and works of Paul. All right, so he's incredibly important. So there's no controversy on that part of the story. He was persecuting Christians. Then this is where the expression, he saw the light, and then he became a Christian, in a nutshell. But who was Paul? What's his background, okay? This one to look at. And who was Jesus? Everyone thinks they know, but no one really knows. Like with Paul, I mean, what was his background? What's his family tree? Who is he? Same with Jesus, the most famous person on the planet, probably, in the world. And you can read all this. He's the centre of the Christian religion. Don't want to read all of this. But if you come down to point 4, where the cursor is, you can see that. Most of the Christians, talking about the first Christians, were ethnically Jewish or Jewish proselytes. An early difficulty came from non-Jewish converts. There was the question if they had to become Jewish before becoming Christian. The decision of St. Peter was that they did not, i.e. anyone could become a Christian, and the matter was further addressed with the Council of Jerusalem. The doctrines of the apostles brought the early church into conflict with some Jewish religious authorities, and this eventually led to the martyrdom of Stephen and James the Great, and expulsion from the synagogues. Thus Christianity got an identity distinct from Judaism. The name Christian was first used for the disciples in Antioch, as recorded in Acts. Right, let's try and unpick a load of this. Like I said, I'm using Wilson and Blackett's work here. Okay. So this conversion on the road to Damascus is the Damascene conversion. Damascus Christophany and the road to Damascus event was, according to the New Testament, an event in the life of Saul, S-A-U-L, Paul the Apostle, that led him to cease persecuting early Christians and to become a follower of Jesus. Right, so the question to look at is, what authorities did he have to persecute him and who was he? Right, now one of the family trees which Alan Wilson's put together, it's in this book, is the first thing it shows that Paul was a member of Herod's family. He was royal. He was diplomatic status, and you can tell this as well by the number of times throughout the stories of in the Bible, he's constantly wandering in and out of palaces. He's talking to kings. He's doing all these things. I'm just going to read a little bit from the beginning here, just to say the Wilson and Blackett view on this, because it gets really interesting. It makes a lot more sense. Everything starts to fall together. Right, so it'd be very easy to take a negative view of Saul, who changed his name to Paul, and who equally changed from being a brutal persecutor of the early followers of Jesus the Nazarene to becoming a major believer in Jesus, and who could quite reasonably be said to have founded or invented the Christian church that exists today. It is necessary to look at what Saul Paul did in the light of what was happening in ancient Judea 2,000 years ago. What was going on? You've got to look at the context. This is what is sadly missing from most analysis, you see. What Saul clearly understood was that the chaotic situation that was simmering near boiling point in Judea in general, and certainly in Jerusalem, would inevitably result in military intervention by Rome, and the consequences would be dire. So at first he accepted the role of policeman appointed to track down and arrest the most dangerous of the followers of Jesus the Nazarene. The plain fact is that Saul Paul was almost certainly a skilled double agent, a sort of ancient James Bond figure. He announced himself to an unelected apostle and disciple, and he calmly proceeded to produce an entirely new and different brand of religious philosophy and teaching to that of Jesus the Nazarene and his brother and successor James the Just, who was executed, judiciously murdered, whoever. Excuse me. So after the death of Jesus, or after crucifixion, it should say, after crucifixion, it does say that, then there's a persecution going on. Now, one of the motivations for this could well have been the fact that Jesus was seen after the crucifixion. Now, I'm not going to get into people's faith and beliefs. Everyone's entitled to their own, beliefs and religious views. So you could say this was a resurrected Jesus from the dead walking around, or you could say he never died on the cross and he's walking around. Either way, it's causing a great deal of embarrassment to the Roman authorities. This time was the Emperor Tiberius was the man in charge. So you got the situation where someone's flouted Roman justice, he's been executed, and then suddenly he's walking around telling everybody he's still alive. It's not looking good. Now, one of the interesting things you can follow up is what happened to all the people involved in this process, like Herod and Pontius Pilate and people like that. They all seem to have been dismissed. Well, Herod's a survivor. He died, sorry. But, the Romans involved in the process, they got shifted out. What seems to have happened. Anyway, so what happened then? So good order had to be somehow maintained in the last years. Excuse me. Oh, what's happened tonight? The ferocious Emperor Tiberia, who died in AD 37, and then during the reign of the insane Emperor Caligula, who reigned until AD 41. The reign of the Emperor Claudius, 42 to 54, offered a possibility of calm, but this did not happen. Okay, hang on a second. Right, there's all stuff about faith. Good, I'll let people have the chat box about that. Saul was undoubtedly a member of the large, sprawling family of Antipater and his son Herod the Great, which we see on screen here. And this was admitted by Saul in the Acts of the Apostles, where he twice refers to a kinsman in the Herodian family. That's Romans 10, and you'll see it in a minute. No, sorry, Romans 16, verse 10, I think. So who was he? Saul Paul was most probably a descendant of the marriage of Herod the Great's sister Salome to Costobarus, by virtue of which Saul Paul was also a Roman citizen by birth, as is in the Bible. So that's how he gets his Roman citizenship. As the Romans had made Antipater and Herod and all their families citizens of Rome for the services rendered to Rome in the takeover of Judea and in other matters. Yeah, why is it, we always know in the Bible that Paul was a Roman citizen. That's never really explained why he's a Roman citizen, on what basis. So what we have then, so the Idumean Judean blood descent of the Herodian royal family, the family of Herod here, came from the marriages of Herod the Great to Miriam the first, Mary, and then to Mariam the second, to mix the royal family descent with the high priesthoods. Later there was the almost ephemeral Mariam the third. Yeah, you get into all these Mariams and everything, and then you see how this kind of twists into the Bible, and some of these characters actually seem to be woven into the Bible. Yeah, this is just a small part, but the name to look for is down the bottom. See one with a star on it? Got this Cypros, and Cypros is a name associated with Paul. And Alan Wilson and Blackett, I put down this Cyprus here as being the connection that to show Paul. So the name Cypros is associated with St. Paul as a very close relative. So somehow Paul's related to this person here, Cypros. Or these family trees, I tell you, are a nightmare to draw because they're all like marrying aunties and uncles and all kinds of things. I've done my best to make this look as presentable as possible. From Alan Wilson's notes, but I haven't changed anything. Right, okay. So what are we on to now? Oh, here it is. There's the quote. Romans 16. Salute Apelles approved in Christ. Salute them which are of Asterobolus's household. Salute Herodian actually. Oops, sorry. Great then be of the household of Narcissus which are in the Lord. So if you look at Romans 16, you can see the reference there. Now, I'm skipping through this very quickly. I hope people are keeping up. Even if they're not, don't panic, because it's not the key part of the story. Key part of the story I want to get to is if you invented Christianity, what did he use as source material? I mean, you can't just... Well, you could, but... what's his name? The guy who wrote... I forgot his name. The Scientology guy. L. Ron Hubbard. I don't know how much of that was created and how much was based on other things. What we have here is a situation where he's not just plucked this religion from nowhere. It seems to be based on the ancient Egyptian Osiris story. And the parallels through how the Bible's presented to the ancient Egyptian story are enormous. And there will be another Wilson and Blackett and that on the way. As soon as their summer holidays are over and everyone's back on school and the days are proper working days again, that book will be coming out very soon, all right? So we got the story then. So we have the story about the road to adopt her. Right, so there's no... Right, so now Paul, now he's had his Damascus experience, Paul now embarked on a different career, and he began propagating a religion that purported to be that preached by Jesus the Nazarene, but in fact was very markedly different. There is no longer a need for Judeans to obey and follow the laws of Moses. Remember, that's in our mainstream reference there when it says, do you have to become a Jew first or something? That's not there. And he could eat whatever food was sold in the markets, and there's no longer any prohibition against... Oh, thank you very much. Oh, some lemon water to help me. Thank you. And there's no longer any prohibition against any... I've an allergic reaction to something. I don't know what it was today. Any uncircumcised man to worship the god Yahweh. He was, in effect, propagating an extreme moderate line that would allow anyone, and particularly Idumeans and Romans, to worship the god Yahweh. And anyone could make offerings to Yahweh, and anyone could enter the temple and worship Yahweh. This policy, if adopted, would have diffused the entire religious and political situation of impending uproar in Jerusalem and Judea. The cultural and religious differences that divided the various peoples in Judea would be minimized, if not erased, and the looming catastrophe might be averted. So what Alan Wilson's arguing here is that the situation at the time was extremely tense, and whatever happened, things were just getting worse and worse. For example, Herod just built this massive temple so they could worship, but then they wouldn't allow him to go into it because he wasn't Jewish. Not only that, his palace overlooked the temple, so they even built an extra wall to block his view so that he couldn't even look at it. Then, of course, when the emperor sent over statues of himself and his faces and busts to be put in this temple, which cost an absolute fortune and went to be displayed, again, the Judeans were like having none of it. There's riots on the streets. It's a disaster. They were more and more hardline. What Paul seems to be trying to do was reach a political solution to soften down the religious claims, make it a more acceptable and less belligerent message, make Christianity more a peace-loving thing, given to Rome what is Romans and all this kind of stuff. And the general appeasement, trying to make a more reasonable, soft line, open to everybody sort of religion. And he was using Jesus to do that. Now, this question, as mentioned in that official description as well. He's introduced this idea of the born-again Jesus, because that's not really part of Jesus' message. So I get into deep water. Right, so let's just read a bit more from the book here, because it's quite good, this bit. So there can be no doubt whatsoever that Saul Paul was the double agent or master spy extraordinaire. Throughout his career, he walked in and out of the palaces of the high and mighty tetrarchs, kings, princes, Roman governors, and procurators. And he was admittedly a member of the sprawling family of Antipater and Herod the Great. And as such, he was automatically a Roman citizen. That he was part Idumean and part Judean is virtually certain. He did not preach Orthodox Judaism as laid down by Moses, and as taught by Jesus the Nazarene and his brother and successor James the Just. Jesus actually taught a more hardline Jewish message, if you look at what his actual words are. And instead he preached and taught a new form of religion based on the premise that the been and gone Messiah had come to earth for all men and women, and not solely for the Judeans. Right, so was he a bad person? So he comes through all the politics, which I've just sort of summarised very quickly. Don't need to go through all that again, because I want to get on to the religion he created. Right, so what's happened? So Agrippa I has died in AD 44, and his son Agrippa II succeeded him. Now, the imported high priesthood came from Alexandria, Egypt, and they were not helping the situation as they found themselves in charge of previously undreamed of temple wealth and income. That greed, they were brought in to sort out their churches. And this is quotes, these beggars on horseback, close quotes, is clear. And the lesser priesthood was deprived of any income, and many of them were reportedly starved. Matters had not improved when the mad Caligula was assassinated in AD 42, and after Claudius, the strange megalomaniac Nero became emperor. The mania of belief in imminent arrival of the mysterious son of the star and of the longed-for Messiah continued to cause ferment and strife in Judea in general, and in Jerusalem in particular. And Saul Paul was appointed to implement the solution. So he'd gone from tracking them down to try and inserting themselves into this bewildered Nazarene movement. He put himself up to be the leader, but he was rejected. He couldn't even become part of the 12 apostles. There's always 12 being replaced as that James became the new leader, brother of Jesus, and he couldn't get into this group. So he's by no means But the point I'm trying to get to is, on what authority does he represent Christianity in the setting of the rules? He couldn't get into the inner circle. He wasn't accepted. He was seen as the enemy. He was the persecutor. He's going around killing these people. Why would it suddenly be him who presents the message and becomes the founder of this new religion? These are the questions that should really be asked. So what did Paul do? Well, he simply proclaimed himself to be a new, unelected disciple. Apparently, he was somehow appointed to this position by the apparition of Jesus, who encountered him as he was riding towards Damascus, causing him to fall off his horse. Here we have the conversion moment. Where he was formerly diametrically opposed to the followers of Jesus, he now is an ardent supporter and advocate. What Paul Saul proposed, however, was completely different from the orthodox Judean teachings of Jesus the Nazarene and his more hardline brother James the Just. In one famous confrontation, when James was speaking from the temple steps in Jerusalem in AD 40, the new disciple Paul and his supporters caused a riot, and James the Just was thrown down the steps, breaking a leg. Some authorities suggest that both of James's legs were broken. The injured James had to be hastily taken out to Jerusalem and carried to Jericho, where he slowly recovered from his injuries. Of course, he got executed eventually. Certainly, Paul was not teaching the same religion as were the other disciples. Amazing as it may seem, Paul Saul apparently led another riot at the Jerusalem temple in AD 62 after the unjust and illegal trial and conviction of James the Just in protest over the stone to death of James. Paul Saul seems to have been all things to all men. And I think just reading this again now, probably for the 20th time, is one of these sort of Hegelian dialectic things, isn't he? He's created a situation. He's been persecuting James. He's an enemy of James. Possibly had something to do with James being convicted and executed and all these things. And then, of course, this is terrible. They're executing James. Let's have a riot. I'm a Christian as well. Let's all start throwing stones and causing trouble. And that's how he's become part of the movement as a double agent. What is significant about Saul Paul is that he was frequently in the palaces of the kings and princes and those of the Roman governors. And therefore, he was no ordinary civilian. He's not just some, like was shown on the films and everything, some guy in rags wandering around with long hair and a beard, shouting and living off water. When arrested in AD 50, he simply appealed to Caesar for trial. And this may have been, this is clever thinking by Alan Wilson, this may have been a way to get him to Rome to brief the emperor directly on affairs in Judea. Again, only a noble person would have been taken so seriously and transported to Rome and placed under house arrest with a centurion as his guard. He's being guarded, so they're around. The fact that he included Epaphroditus, I hate this name, Epaphroditus, among his close friends and a comrade in arms is significant, as the known Epaphroditus in Rome was the secretary of the Emperor Nero, and as high-ranking official as was possible. So he's friends with the personal secretary of the emperor. He's a Roman citizen. He's been taken to Rome, apparently to give up, possibly I should say, not apparently, to give an update on the situation on the ground. What's happening? These Judeans are uprising again. What's this I hear about some Messiah walking around when he's supposed to be dead? What's happening? And I suggest this is when the idea of creating the resurrection on the cross was created. That don't worry, it's not the real Jesus. It's just an apparition walking around, and he'll ascend to heaven and he's gone. There's no physical remains. We don't know what happened to him. This is all part of this narrative being created. All right, so so he managed to calm down the religious fervour, open it up to everybody, and then of course all kicked off anyway. But later, and Jerusalem was destroyed, and all those other things happened. Right, and one thing to add on here: Flavius Josephus refers to Saulus going to Corinth to debrief the Emperor Nero on the situation in Judea in AD 64, and this was probably a definitive meeting that ultimately led to the Roman decision to bring the general Vespasian from Britain, where the wars are still raging, and to plan the total subjugation of Judea. So we've got the Britain connection already coming in there. We've got Vespasian in Britain and Vespasian coming across to Judea. Right, now most importantly, we finally get to the start. 5 to 9, we get to start the topic. I'll have to dive in. What is this religion that Paul as created for his stories and everything. What have we got? This is where the statue's coming in, which I'm hoping people recognise. This is the ancient Egyptian statue, that's what we're told, of the goddess suckling the child Horus. And it's at the Hood Museum of Art. The symbology is the key here. We've got the mother figure with the infant. All right, with the infant on the lap being based. Of course, this is the main symbol you see all through Christianity. Mary holding the baby. It's the same image. So, right, let's look for the... I'll come on to a bit more of this in a second. We look at the Dendera zodiac, how that fits in with this, and then the Osiris myth, okay? Right, so this is what, reading again from the book, because it makes you think. Often it is what experts do not say that is of far greater importance than what they do say. It is very rare for any Egyptologist to mention Ihi, I-H-Y, or Ipi, I-P-Y as he's sometimes called. This is a strange omission, and the scenario is this. The goddess Isis had a son named Horus, who was of virgin birth, because his mother was impregnated by his father Osiris sometime after Osiris was well and truly dead. The goddess Isis had a sister goddess named Hathor, and the goddess Hathor also had a son who was named Ihi, sometimes read as Ipi. And that's why it's left a trick question, if you like, because this image, Wilson and Blackett show, is actually based not on the Osiris, it's based on, let's get the names right, Hathor and her son Ihi, or Ipi. I'll jump forward a little bit. Hang on a second. Oh, execution there. Oh, there. So the comparison is being made between Hathor and her, shown depicted with his son Ihi, or Ipi, and this is the similarity with Elizabeth and son John the Baptist. So it does not take much thought to see the parallel between Hathor and her son Ihi, and Elizabeth and her son John the Baptist, and then Isis and her virgin birth son Horus, and Mary, the virgin birth son Jesus. So Isis is Mary, and Horus is Jesus in the parallels that are being drawn. The stories are incredible. I'll read some of it now. So in biblical record, Mary and Elizabeth are cousins, and in Egypt, Isis and Hathor were sisters. Strangely, the Egyptologists actually see statues of the seated goddess Hathor holding her son Ihi as being statues of the goddess Isis wearing the crown of Hathor. So Hathor, or Hathor, is famous for a particular crown. All right, instead of the moon and the horns. So we know, well, what she's supposed to be depicted as, okay? So we get the strange situation with sometimes statues, and I'll show you one in a second. So this is, right, I'll read that chapter paragraph again. Strangely, the Egyptologists actually see statues of the seated goddess of Hathor holding her son Ihi as being statues of the goddess Isis wearing the crown of Hathor and seated holding her son Horus. This is strange, as a goddess wearing the crown of Hathor should be recognised as being a representation of Hathor. Yet how mad is this? So instead of the woman wearing the Hathor crown being Hathor, okay, I don't know if the conversation, we try and keep an eye on that, Leon, or it's drifting away a bit, I think. The British Museum actually published a photograph of the goddess Hathor wearing a distinctive moon and crown. There it is one of them. There's one in the Brooklyn Museum, and there's the one in the British Museum. I think this is the one. It's the one I managed to track down. And this here is what it says on the. So they say now the sun disk and cow's horn. This is the British Museum's description from their website. The sun disk and cow's horns identify the subject as Isis, who was accompanied by his son, the young Horus, who sits on her knees. But for the crown of that is Hathor. And there's Hathor again in the Brooklyn Museum. So when depicted standing up, everyone's fine with it being Hathor. As soon as he sits down, it can't be Hathor anymore. It's bizarre, isn't it? Very strange. Ooh, have I missed anything here? I should go through the Osiris myth in a minute. So it's going to distract people. Okay. Oh well. Now, it may sound crazy, but this serves to deflect any direct... Let's leave it on this picture. There we go. It may sound crazy, but this serves to deflect... When he says this, I mean the British Museum mislabelling the statues serves to deflect any direct comparison being made between John the Baptist and Ichi and Jesus of Nazareth and Horus. The father of Ichi was alive when Ichi was conceived, and only Horus, the son of Isis, was a virgin child, being conceived after his father, the great god Osiris, was dead. Pre-Christian statues of a seated goddess or a virgin mother holding her baby child are found in Egypt and in Etruria in Italy, and later in Christian churches, is a common motif type of statue. Right, the slides are a bit out of order here. When Alan Wilson visited Dendirah with his nephew Gavin and with Clifford Smith from Belfast, Alan headed for the rear of the temple where they saw plenty more hieroglyphs. Right, we don't need to speak of that, but the hieroglyphs clearly spoke of Ichi. It was near impossible not to think of the parallel between the two mothers, Isis and Hathor, and Mary and Elizabeth. It was hard to miss the obvious correlation between Jesus the Nazarene and John the Baptist, in contrast with Horus and Ichi. The parallel goes much further, as the child Horus is to be spirited away and hidden from his uncle the god Seth, who had twice killed Osiris. The Christian parallel would put Herod the Great into the place of Seth, and the twice murdered Osiris would be Joseph, the brother of Herod, who was beheaded by Herod because he suspected Joseph of having an affair with the great Hasmonean royal heiress, Mary or Mariam, and aspiring to be king in place of Herod. And secondly, the later Joseph Pantera, who the book shows is the husband of Mary, who was the recognised father of Jesus. I'll read this paragraph again, right, because that's a lot to take in, okay? So here we have the Egyptian myth. Okay, this is straight off Wiki, alright? Just to give you an idea what this sort of mainstream thing is. I know it's not, Wiki's not brilliant, but it's pretty good at giving you summaries of mainstream positions. The only one that will be allowed soon, probably. Right, so the Osiris myth, most elaborate and influential story in ancient Egyptian mythology. So it's good to learn this stuff. So it concerns the murder of the god Osiris. So Osiris is the big god, gets murdered. And he was the king of Egypt. And its consequences. So Isis was murdered by his brother Set, and then Set takes the throne. Meanwhile, the wife of Osiris, Isis, restores her husband's body, allowing him to conceive the son even though he's dead, right? It's posthumously. And that's when they have Horus. The remainder of the story focuses on Horus, the product of the union of Isis and Osiris, who is at first a vulnerable child protected by his mother. And then, when he grows up, he becomes Set's rival for the throne. Their often violent conflict ends with Horus's triumph, which restores Mat, a Welsh word, by the way, cosmic and social order, to Egypt under Set's unrighteous reign, and completes the process of Osiris's resurrection. So they get rid of Set, and then he rises to become the great king. Actually, Leon, can you just grab my Egyptian words off the wall there, please? Yeah. The picture off the wall, be careful. So I just saw that word Mat quickly. Quick sales plug. Hang on a second. Quick sales plug. One of the posters and stuff that will be available on Saturday. I'll bring these along at the show. Remember, you've got to bring posters on Saturday, okay, you? Okay. And this is some Welsh words. On one day you'll see. So you got Mat, which is the word we just saw on there, on Wiki and everything, which is the pharaoh's power to rule, as it says there, cosmic and social order. And Math in Welsh is nourishment, so it's like it sort of feeds the people with this. Okay, so that's the official. Just give you an idea of what the sort of the background story is if you're not familiar with this Egyptian mythology. I mean, I have to say, I wasn't great in all this until the last few years of studying Wilson and Blackett. It's been only good for learning why it's wrong. It's very good for teaching you what the mainstream version of things is. Right, okay, I lost track of the conversation, so I've got to come back to that. So what we have here, so I'll read that paragraph again, right, because it's a bit complicated. So that's the story we got. Right, so the Christian parallel. So Herod the Great becomes Seth, all right, or Set. And the twice murdered Osiris would be Joseph, the brother of Herod. So we're talking about the Herodian royal family. We're talking about Herod's family. All right, this is what we're talking about here. So whether or not that's Jesus' family is a different thing. We're talking about Herod's family. This is what the story is focusing on. Everything's switched around it's weird, isn't it? So Herod the Great becomes Seth. So he's the bad guy, and he's murdered Osiris. And he becomes the king, as you see there. It's a sudden moment then. Right, and he was beheaded by Herod because he's suspected of doing all these kind of things with Mary, Miriam. And this is where the Mary comes in, because that's the name in the Herodian royal family as well. And aspiring to be king in place of Herod. And secondly, the later Joseph Pantera, Joseph, father of Jesus, married to Mary, is recognized father of Jesus. The Bible is quite clear that this baby Jesus was a threat to Herod's throne. And the parallel between the young Horus having to be hidden in riverside bulrush areas to save him from Seth. There we go again. Same as with Moses last week, the bulrush is hiding, child about to be killed. This story comes up again. And hidden to save him from Herod the Great is unmistakable. It may well be that the 19th century Christian researchers, whose interest in ancient Egyptian lay mainly in searching for evidence of Moses and Jacob and Joseph in support of the Old Testament, were alarmed at these plain and obvious parallels, and they preferred not to recognize Ichi. This is why, not to go through all the execution of James. So this is why this will be misidentified. It gets into murky business. The more I look at the British Museum, I'm wondering how many things are actually correct in there, because all the ones, it's a funny thing, isn't it? It's a bit like, this is a slight aside here, just generally. Something that we all do this, right? Myself included. We find, say it's a newspaper, okay? Or it could be a museum, or it could be a history book, or what I'm saying tonight, this YouTube broadcast. When you find an area that you've really looked into and you know really well, all right, that's when you see all the problems are, okay? And the example I used to give was with, I used to go to watch a lot of rugby matches with my dad, all right? That's what we did together every week. Pontypridd, home and away, so all the games. And then we get a newspaper. First of all, you get, I think it was the Pontypridd Observer, they had the sports section on a Saturday evening. So the same evening as the game is so exciting. A few hours later, if there's a really big game, you might even pop down to Cardiff to get the pink issue, you know, the late paper, and read it there and then. And then you get, what's his name? JBG Thomas was the god, the doyen of Welsh rugby. He was the man who knew everything. And his was the word of God on teams and how well they're playing and all that kind of stuff. And thinking back, my dad would read, we'd been to the match, right? Watched it live, we know all the players, know the game pretty well. And he'd read these reports. And they'd be like, this is nothing like the game I watched. This is the way they're describing the players and what took place. The only thing that's correct is the scoreline. Everything else is just not right. Because you know the details. And you researched it, or in this case, we were there, we've seen it firsthand. And we could describe the events ourselves. And you could see the level of inaccuracies. The strange thing was then, and I would do the same thing as well, you flick through the other match reports of the other games. You're like, oh, look what happened there in the Newbridge match, or look what happened there in the Cross Keys games, look what happened in the Pontypool game. It's this strange logic leap we have to make where you think, well, the bit I know that's in the newspaper, I know it's all rubbish. And it's all wrong. Maybe some things are right. It's not completely wrong. I'm obviously get the right names on the try scorers and the main characters are correct and the score's correct, but you know, how the play went and who was doing well and that kind of stuff. A completely different view on it. And yet we quite happily read the views on the other games and sort of assume that there's some sort of knowledge or accuracy in there. when our experience is the opposite. And it's the same when you're watching the news or something. If there's a story you know about, I will guarantee it. If ever you're in your life, you've been involved in some sort of story, it was a big news event, and you've seen how it's been reported in the papers and on the TV, you think, well, hang on a second, nothing like that, I was there. And yet we still give credence to the rest of the things that we read in the newspaper or news or things I'm doing here. I know it's... I try very hard, obviously. I mean, just I think most people know by now, I do not have any affiliations to any political organisations or any organisations, actually. I'm not really a member of anything, so I don't have, and I have no ambitions to be a politician or anything like that. I'm really trying my best to dig in, read what other authors do, and I see myself more as a reporter and giving thoughts on what I read and passing it on as honestly as I can. But I can't guarantee everything's bang on correct. My knowledge isn't that amazing. There's going to be mistakes. The point I'm trying to get to, I think, with the British Museum is that the few items I've looked in close detail, like the Rosetta Stone, which I'm pretty sure is a fake. We got the full store of, or not, well, at least meddled with. I think it's probably a fake myself. I think the original's not there. It'll be in London, but not there. The Royal Institute's got it somewhere, I think. Then there's the false store of Patar Shepsis, as they've labelled it, which we talked about last week, where Wilson and Blackett show this is actually to do with the burial mastaba of Moses, and it tells the story of Moses on it. It's been completely mistranslated, so that's completely wrong. Looking at a statue like this, which according to Wilson and Blackett's been misidentified, and it seems pretty clear it has. When you can see the crown on the head, it's the wrong crown. And because that's the crown of Hathor, not Isis. So you start to think then, well, how much else in there is correct? The other thing about the Welsh items, you got the Hewel Stone, which I'm still trying to track down. Not the Hewel Stone. You know the one anyway. There's another one it's found near Brecon, where it's got the story of the Welsh migration on it, and it was stored upside down facing a wall in the British Museum, and now it's not on display at all. And I'm also trying to track down you saw me jumping in that lake rather stupid with no clothes on. And for those who asked, yes, it did have a healing energy, and yes, I felt fantastic. Thank you. Interesting comments about that. But the situation there, that's one of the most famous things, Llyn Fawr. Even that period of changing from Bronze to Iron Age is named Llyn Fawr. And so I want to be able to see the collection. I've been on the Cardiff Museum, National Museum, Wales. I can't see it on the website. Can't find out details. I've been ringing the museum. I can't get a reply. I can't get an answer from anybody. And I spoke to a few people now. You can't get hold of anybody at the museum or any information or replies on anything. We went down to meet Cardiff on Monday, and we found out the museum's closed. So we got some footage of the closed museum. Closed every Monday. I should have known this, but me and many others did not know. And there was a sign outside saying there was an exhibition running from a period of dates. They didn't say brackets, but not on Mondays. It's a shambles. So anyway, that's my little bit of a moan on what's going on with our museums and our information and how it's held, and how we really, really need to question it, because I'll guarantee it, the things you really do question, you'll find problems with. So why do we assume, same way as when I was reading the Western Mail or the Echo with my dad, we know our match reports were rubbish. Why do we assume the other match reports aren't also rubbish, okay? Right, so this is where we get, we are getting to Britain now, okay? So in Britain, where the Holy Family from Jerusalem arrived in AD 35, well before Saul Paul began to spread his new version of events. Don't forget, we saw it earlier on the official thing, he started in the 40s and 50s, late 30s, the original message and the Holy Family and possibly Jesus himself were already in Britain, and the religion was starting to flourish. Something which I would say is, to me, the most, anyway, I'll just get to the end and I'll come why it's most significant to me, easy for you to say. This British-style Christianity spread to Gaul, and the family of King Caradoc took the religion to Rome in AD 51. And there could have been a contact there with Paul, which would have been interesting, who was converting who and who was teaching who. I certainly wouldn't have trusted Paul. So anyway, St. Paul, alias Saul, or alias Saulus, which is how you'll find him in the Roman records, dealing with the secretary of Nero. This idea, I think, well, Wilson and Blackett, that he's an agent in there to infiltrate, well, initially try and destroy this budding new religion. When that fails, to infiltrate, to control, and when that fails, then to misdirect it. It's the old judo thing, isn't it? If someone comes to punch you or throw at you, you don't push them back or punch back. You take it and you throw it further in that way, is what happens all the time with things. And that's why Paul's a complete missteer. So St. Paul, alias Saul, alias Saulus, is important as the collision between apostolic Christianity in Britain and the religion invented by St. Paul was inevitable, with disastrous results for the heritage, culture and history of the entire British nation. Was there anything else on here that Angie did? No. So that's the end of that bit. I want to say, but this last part here. I'm just going to read that again. The religion invented by St. Paul, the collision between apostolic Christianity in Britain and the religion invented by St. Paul was inevitable, with disastrous results for the heritage, culture and history of the entire British nation. This is the key here, okay? We've got the whole, how Wilson said, if they got anywhere else, Wales might have been left alone, or Britain. See, I'm saying Wales here because it's a difficult situation because the terms have all got so mixed up over time. Like we discussed earlier, Britain in 1707 became to represent England and Scotland, and Wales, presumably, annexed part of England. Whereas when we talk about Britain going back, we're talking about the pre-Saxon Britons. So when you say calling them Welsh doesn't work either. Cymru, that's kind of doesn't include everyone because you've got the Lloegr, you've got the English who are pre-Saxon as well. It's so difficult to put nationalistic terms in it, and there's no proper word you can use. But anyway, the original apostolic Christians, if you like, what strikes me as very important, a few things. The biggest one of all is that this religion flourished. Even in the mainstream accounts, this religion flourished. Now, if the contents of this book is correct, and Jesus did survive and came to end his days in Britain, in West Wales, that didn't stop the message spreading. This is I think, was another diversion. This Paul story as fixed and focused on the crucifixion above all other things. You know, the Christian symbol, people wear a cross around their neck. Every time you go to a Catholic church, you see these pictures of this real suffering Jesus. You know, it's a whole message of guilt and agony, and it's all cross. And I think the reason why that's so important, I know you got all the things about control and power and politics, and this is the things that religion does. Yeah, all those things. But more importantly, it's to ram home this message that what was happening in Britain, the birth of this new religion, coming out of the Essene community and the Druidic traditions, even the Jewish situation, this new message of peace and of love and the things you see Jesus say were lost. It all became about the sacrifice at the end. That was everything. And the message was lost. It's all about the person. And they had to do this because 2,000 years ago, however long ago it was, there was a political situation where the Roman Empire was being completely disrupted. Whoever ran that empire, that's another thing, all right? Get back onto that. The principle of it is, though, if you've got a faith there which is powerful and you don't control it, and you've got a new faith growing, presumably in Rome, this Roman faith, is coming the other way, and there's a religious war. As Churchill points out, now thank you very much, David, for that article earlier. The only option available to the Roman Church, or the Saxon Church, or whatever you want to call it, the religion A, religion B, religious B has to destroy religion A, has to do it. And to do that, the history has to go as well. The history all has to go. Everything has to go. And this is where, as Alan Wilson says, I mentioned, this was a disaster. The biggest disaster to hit Britain was the Holy Family coming here, because that put a big target and an endless assaults that still go on to this day. It's phenomenal, isn't it? So there we go. So I'm very much looking to hearing the comments on that. Unfortunately, look at that. It's only 20 past 9. Yay. I hope people are enjoying that. There's a lot of chat about toothpaste going on here. What's all this about?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Non-fluoride.
Oh, non-fluoride toothpaste. God dear. We're talking about world-changing things.
The Kingfisher, to be exact.
Oh, right. That's the one we've got, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, what we're saying about... I'll go back to the comments now. I'd like to have some comments and we can have some chat. If you've got questions or there's points you want to make, please do so and I'll try and share them. And, no one's going to get attacked or beaten up or anything like that. I want to get into toothpaste arguments as well. Because I'm a bit worried, because when I had my fall a few weeks ago, I smashed my mouth the very same place as I whacked it a few weeks earlier. And I got a tooth there, that one, my beautiful tooth there, is slightly wobbly. And oh my goodness, every now and again, so on the microphone picks it up, you get this kind of, sort of tiny wobble in it, just kind of, so if that tooth has to come out, I'm going to let this gap here and, oh man, don't want to happen to my voice. What a nightmare, eh? But there you go. Someone's trying to say it must be in it. And has anyone seen about this? Someone mentioned it. I haven't looked into it. Sorry, just completely drifting off subject now. I managed to stay on subject the whole way through. I'm very pleased with myself. Is apart from a bit about rugby newspapers, but I think it's relevant, is that every tooth represents something in your mouth. I don't know anything about this. So it's the one in front of my incisor, the pointy tooth. I'm getting technical. The one in front of that is about to be with us not much longer, unfortunately, I think. But the point is I got smacked in the same place twice in a row. Weird, isn't it? Right, okay. Let's have a look. I'm looking forward to the comments here. Right, Marcel, yes, Christianity is a repeat of the ancient archetypes. It does seem to be. The one thing I would like to throw in, there was one more thing I was going to throw in. Just to throw a little curveball in here, just to get everyone thinking a bit differently, is that if you read I know a lot of people on this group don't like this, all right, especially ardent Wilson and Blackett fans. They won't get a bigger Wilson and Blackett fan than me, okay, but we can still question their work, we can still look at their options, and, anyway, if you look at Fomenko's writing, and the Russian historians, Volonsky and other people like that, I think that's not quite right, I don't mean Velikovsky, but there's another one, the same situation with Fomenko books is that there's a previous historian, a bit like an Alan Wilson character, who came up with all the ideas and put everything down. And then Fomenko and a team came along later and produced the books and the maths behind it and the science. So kind of the role that we're doing now, the Britain's Hidden History, is very much Fomenko. I think, reading between the lines, that's what happened. But all these people, anyway, they are saying that it's the other way around. This is weird. And that the Christianity came first, and the reason you see so much Christian and Egyptian symbolism the same is that Egypt came later, and they moved Egypt to medieval / Renaissance times, including the pyramids. Oh, there's a weird one. People get upset when I do too much flamenco, but I think it's fascinating. Right, anyway, people are just going to throw that little grenade and run. Right, there's loads of long words here which I don't understand, so I can't even catch up on that one. The fall of Lyre, Arthur's harp, not just about its constellation in the sky. I'm way out my depth here. Right, Gary Weber, let's try from there. We'll take it from there. The temples were energetic centres. Pyramid is cathedral, is a cathode. The sun is electric anode, so Hathor image is female uterus. It resonates, I think it's meant to be. Yeah, now I tell you with Martin Leaker as well and all that, this idea of churches and cathedrals actually being some sort of electricity system. It's very interesting. Don't mock it. Don't laugh until you've got a proper look into it. Oh, so he's going behind the scenes. Are you getting ready soon, on? No, it says it's going to be soon. Oh, Leon's doing it. All right, okay. That's it. Yars in the middle of the Iranian plateau has its sacred fire burning since 400 and something, all based on eternal sacred fire. Oh, thank you, Marcel. Repetition till a point sinks. That makes sense. Right, okay. Fire worship. All right, Monica, here we go. It's the kind of thing I want to see. Oh, Paul Challenger. I heard Matt translated as fair play. Chwarae teg. Yeah, interesting, actually. Right, Sean Paul Wood. Here we go. All religions emanated and evolved from the Egyptian mysteries. The legions of Ra, the Raymen, the Raymen, Roman, and it's all Masonic. Yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised, though it might actually be a lot more recent than we think. Monica, could it eventually be the case that Ptolemy actually falsified the Bible by stealing old Arabic desert stories and then to integrate them into the Bible? I don't know which parts of the Bible particularly referring to, but yeah, I think the point we're getting here is this why I emphasised the dates so much when I was talking earlier, is that if this apostolic Christianity, and by apostolic, just explain that term, what it means is it's still the time of the people who were in direct contact with Jesus. So they are people who've got the message directly and are going off to preach it and become the apostles of the religion. So it's very, very early religion, and that's the message we think is the original British Christian message, and that ties in with Judaism and all sorts of things like that. We can go off and have another evening talking about that. But if you notice, that's where it started in 37. Paul doesn't even begin preaching till the mid-40s to 50s. And as we saw earlier, the Acts in the Bible is mostly about the work of Paul. So all the things that we're reading in Acts, and indeed I would say the second half, if you like, of the New Testament, which I think what Monica might be referring to as well, perhaps, is that is all stuff that's happened after the schism, if you like. So you've got the original Holy Family and their message, which, by the way, is a lot stricter than the Christianity we get today. So we all have to start thinking how we act and all that if we did adopt this again. But anyway, let's just forget about that kind of side of it. So you've got the mainstream, so you've got the apostolic Holy Family, original Christians going off with their message to Britain. At the same time, Paul has gone off to start his religion, and he's gone off around Anatolia and then Rome and all these places. So they're separated already. So by the time of the New Testament, the Acts of the Apostles, that's happening after the division. This is where, for me, it's quite a difficult subject to think about. You know, if you're thinking about, is a big chunk of the New Testament not really Christian? I mean, can you say that? Or is Christianity what we call adherence to the New Testament, and the apostles and the Holy Family aren't Christian? Or Jesus' message is different to that message, so he's not Christian? You get some really weird philosophical positions here. And I think it's, as with all these things, the more you look into it, the more questions you come across. Right. Does anyone know, Suzanne Price, does anyone know the meaning of the word Talyn, T-A-L-Y-N? I'll get my dictionary out right now. The old Welsh dictionary, see if there's something in there. So we look at the fire ceremonies. Sea of Kronos, I would hazard a guess that the fire ceremonies were essentially the same wherever practiced. Yeah, I wonder about that. Marshall, some origins of the word. Fire equals pyre, equals pure. All the same root. Hey, here we go. Akmose Pranlorlorian. That's a great name. Misor gave birth to Tort, the god of letters, the inventor of the alphabet, and Tort became Thoth, the god of history of the Egyptians. Yeah, although I think they're... Yes, I think they're... How the names are said and everything might be slightly different. Now we can do cumuloglyphics. Don't forget, you can order the book through cumuloglyphics.com website, so there's still a few copies left. Andrew Wheeler, British Museum wouldn't know blank from boot polish. I can't say the first word out loud, but it looks a lot like boot polish if you got brown boots. Monica, I recommend everyone to read the book or to watch the videos by Ashraf Ezzat. He blames Ptolemy and his 72 Jewish scribes for falsifying the Septuagint Bible. He claims that Joseph was an Arab. I've seen some of his stuff. I'm not sure about all of it, but I think the idea of it. I mean, clearly a book was written. A human book was written, and a team of people went across to write the history with Joseph of Arimathea. All these things are sort of accepted. It's how faithful they were is the question, I suppose, isn't it? Because the official explanation of there being 72 of them, apart from being an important number, was that they were separated. So it's a bit like the police. This is the theory. If you arrest two people at the scene of a crime, the idea is you interrogate both separately with no contact between them, and then you can see if the stories match. And I think that was the idea with having so many writers. It's how it's presented. Keep them all separate, so they should present the same story. Because if they don't, then one or both of them's wrong, isn't it? Anyway, awesome. Thanks. That was to Star Child. Right. Okay. All right. AP Gwilym. When I played, one of us wrote the match review for the local rag, and I always made sure I either scored a great try or match-saving tackle. Well done, Gwilym. I love it. Ah, dear. Yeah, I used to write in I used to do a little Taffy's Tales, I called it. It was I used to do a little sports write-up on the back page of the university newspaper. I didn't do that, though. I didn't give myself extra tries, but now you've mentioned it, I'm rather kicking myself. Because I would now be able to produce these old newspapers and say, look, there I am, man of the match, 3 tries. So now it's in the written record, Gwilym. You must have done it. Andrew, I wouldn't join any organisation that will have me as a member. Yeah, Spike Milligan, I like it. Marshall Abrahams, ISIS's headdress is a throne. Thank you. Akosmose, Occults, Ancient Secret Society. Oh, I'm not drawing on tap water again. Alan Reese, I'll never drink tap water again. We do purify all our water, but I don't want to get into all that kind of stuff. Ian Briggs, Hathor sounds like a female Thor, which is a bit weird. That is true, actually. And if you follow another of my intellectual pursuits, the one TV program I watch every year. What's the one TV program I watch every year, Luke? There's only one.
Isn't it
Christmas time.
Isn't it World's Strongest Man?
World's Strongest Man, that's it, yes. And Thor, as he's known, his proper name is Hathor. He is Hathor. So, I watch one TV show a year. It's the World's Strongest Man. It's great. Ah, dear. Right, Akmose again, who's on fire tonight, or she. Imagine the disc in the horns is magnifying glass that burns on contact. Ah, cool. Squirrel Sniper, Italians were medicine men, natural healers. Okay. Okay, then we got things about water, which will probably get me closed down, and toothpaste. This is how to get your YouTube channel closed down, is to talk about these things. Apparently, it's not so bad if you talk about Jesus wasn't a Christian. That's okay. But if you say you shouldn't use fluoride in your toothpaste, you're thrown out. The world's gone mad. Oh, wow. Ian Briggs possibly found something out. No one has a unique, stable genome. Changes all the time. Well, that really messes things up. Right. Marshall. Sophia equals Joseph. Wow. The female male is the same, is it? To increase, repeat. Not sure the exact significance of this, but there must be some, yes. Right, Johnny Bigspud. Also say age 33, you stop having divine episode happening in one's life. Younger, you are closer to God. Wow. Hey, we got a new name, I think. King Snurgle Gurgle Son the Viking. Good name. I might use that when I have Blood Bowl teams. The kind of people that control the media to be spread by today's MSM are the same people that wrote the Bible. All historical literature is presented by the state as half-truths at best, and sadly, I think that's true, yes. You know the Dragon Sage. You know of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Apparently only level of 13 are available to us. Right, I don't know what that is about. Alright, Gary Webber. The personification of Christos was the Roman Piso. Catholic Church destruction of kills to take our teachings. Yeah, something about that in this book, I remember. The other thing, by the way, I read something a couple of years ago about the origins of the terms Jesus Christ, where when you had this cataclysm going on, where Constantine, was it Oh, God. Should know this date. Council of Nicaea. Was it 354? Someone's going to correct me. But then, anyway, long time ago, when they were trying to unify what the Christian message was and what should go in the Bible and how it should look, you had the West on one side, East on the other side. There's hundreds of different religions and subplots and all that. They had to agree on a name. And apparently, Yesi, which is still the word used in Welsh and Gymraeg in Welsh churches, Yesi, became corrupted by the Greeks to Jesus, very similar. And Christos is to keep the Eastern churches happy, with that coming from Krishna, as in Hare Krishna. Christ is from Krishna, and yes, Jesus is from Yesi. So you got Yesi Krishna, it would be there. I need to look more into that. I think there was an article by Andrew Johnson's website. Check the evidence if you want to go have a look. That was a couple of years ago. I can't remember all the details. Sea of Kronos. Sea of Kronos. I played rugby at school once, and I had to be dug out of the sod by the groundsman. Yeah. Right. Paul Challenger. You missed this earlier, Ross. Hathor. Harth oer. I think you translate that to Welsh. Harth oer. Towering and cold. Moses in the hieroglyphs. Page 165, original book. Thank you, Paul. I did miss that. Hathor. Right, King Snuggle Gurgle, son of Viking. Dragon Sage, the one presented as the current historically accepted emerald tablets, are later copies. The originals got broken into pieces. Yeah, good grief. Remind you of some commandments, rather. Yes, it does. Right, okay, well, it's massive. It's a great viewing audience, and no one's leaving. Everyone's staying. But I think we're coming to the end. Oh, my goodness, it feels... I feel sad, actually. I was you might have noticed at the beginning, I was a bit jaded. I don't know. I don't know what it was today. But I feel like full of beans now. So I enjoy this every Sunday. And I'm so grateful to everyone coming along. It's great. It's I hope everyone has a good time. I see the same things coming back week after week, so I'm thinking so. I like to include more people. So next, if you've got questions or particular topics you want included, please email me, ross@cymroglyphics.com, and I'll do my best to include them next week. I don't even pretend or claim to have all the answers, or even some of the answers. What I do is read a lot of books, and I can give you some of the answers people like Wilson and Blackett give, or Fomenko, and various other writers, and I'll give some thoughts, and then on the comments, there's loads of people in this group who clearly know more about all these subjects than I do, and they will post as well. So fire away with questions. And they always say there's no such thing as stupid questions, but there are. So try and make them relevant, all right? So, okay, so one last plug for this. Please come along Saturday, Porthcawl, Centre of the Known Universe. I mean, that's where the Elvis annual festival is. It's a seaside, it's a fun fair. I think the weather forecast is going to be great. There are children's stalls, funs and games, jumble sales, hot and cold drinks, homemade cakes. There we go. And my stall was quite late, so it's not on the flyer, but there'll be a stall there so you can get Wilson and Blackett books. Still got a couple of copies of Hugh Evans' book, and I'll bring some copies of Architecture of Power, Rob Shaw's book. So there you go. So if you're looking for those, it'll be on the day. Cash only. Use cash. Oh my goodness, all my little secret political things are coming out now. Use it or lose it. And once we lose cash, we've lost all independence. You know, that's my view. I shouldn't go into these dangerous territory. Like I said, it's okay to talk about Jesus being buried in Wales and Christianity being the wrong one. It's the wrong side of Christianity. But mention things like that, you can get in trouble. So I hope everyone understands. All right. So I'll start saying goodnight to everyone now at 20 to 10. So are you ready to play us out? Yes. God go with you and peace. Yes. Thank you, Akamasi. God go with you as well, and Heduk, peace to everyone. Great show, Ross. Thank you, Dragon Sage. Some suggestions next week. You are who's still there now? Fair play. It's been an hour and 40 minutes. Well done, and thank you, Richard. Richard, I hope to see you soon. I got a few questions for you as well. Richard lives locally. He knows the area and he knows this Wilson and Blackett stuff. He's done it for decades. He knows it better than me. It's quite funny. I'm the one presenting it, really. Hey, Tara's there as well. Oh, Tara. Sorry, I thought I was going to say hello to Tara anyway. Hello, Tara. I haven't seen you for a while. Right, Leon, you ready? Okay, bud? The Viking Rots definitely is. Enjoyed the show. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Real Soul Clan. Siluris win in the end, or the Egglois anyway. Selug, sorry. Right. Interesting as usual. Good. Yeah, what we do on a Sunday evenings? We didn't have this now, eh? Gosh. So please send through suggestions next week. I've got some more. What I really want to know, I'm going to give specifics, but would we like to have more about... and Wilson and Blackett did so much work. They're my favourite authors, as you know, and I publish their books and edit them, so I am totally, behind them, although I am prepared to find holes and look for problems. I'm not, it's not a cult. You won't get thrown out by saying they've got something wrong, all right? As long as you back it up and explain why you think that and give some evidence or something, rather than just, personally abuse them. They've had plenty of that over the years. Let's clarify. I can't believe it. Like last week, the week before, someone again on Facebook saying they're criminals who went to jail. For the record, on here, they never, ever, ever got convicted of anything that went to jail. Nothing like that, okay? Baron Blackett did have a minor conviction for something, and that was a stitch-up. But there you go. That's a long story. But none of this stolen goods and all absolute nonsense, all right? So anyway, we're sticking to the issues. Even if they had done that, which they hadn't, it doesn't change the history. It doesn't change what's in the books. Right, Ross, do a show on Comins Beaumont. Yeah, I funny enough, I am reading a Comins Beaumont book right now. I think if you noticed during the week, I put up a video with his introduction about extreme weather. And there's another subject to get me in trouble. 100 years ago, they were complaining about it. And someone, I'm going to name this someone. Well, anyway, I was told on the phone, yeah, Philip. I hope you're doing right, Philip. A special sending my love to you and Maria. I hope your things improve. I'm a difficult time at the moment. But he was saying that in 1922 was a ridiculously hot year. Well, it was in the 40s for a couple of weeks, consecutive days. And but that's not included in the records. The records start from 1924, when you had a cold year. But you can read that as you like. Right, check. Right, okay, yeah, we'll do some more Comins Beaumont then, shall we? I need to do some more stuff. Right, touch on Rosling. Oh, loads of Scottish stuff. Rosling Chapel. I don't know anything about Rosling Chapel. And Kearney-Go Castle. Right, you can play this out. Later score. Roman 0, Herman 9. Yes. Check if the Welsh are Amorites. From Turkish region of Levant. Johnny Bigspud. Because they are related and said where the farmers came from. Well, it certainly came from Anatolia, isn't it? Why particularly the Amorites? Okay. Scotland sadly going downhill under the WF. Yeah, what can you do? Same here, mate. Same in Wales. Grinigo, I don't know anything about it. I can only do, what I would say about topics, I can only really go into like Wilson and Blackett stuff, Comins Beaumont perhaps. Flamenco, no one's asking Flamenco, that's a shame, I really like that. Please unblock me on Facebook, please. Oh, right, okay, well if you could drop me an email saying what your Facebook identity is, and I'll see if I can look into that. You'd be bored if you didn't have this on a Sunday. Thank you, Zoe. I don't give my time to you. I love doing this, but thank you very much anyway. Right. More biblical stuff. Thank you, Richard. Yeah, we've got so much to do. I mean, like I said, there's enough material. This is one channel with no shortage of material. We could do another topic a week for another 10 years and we still wouldn't finish it. So get the books, do your reading as well. All right, okie dokie. Thank you very much, Leon. I mean, played out. I think it's time to call it tonight, unfortunately. So do you want to put your hand on the thing and do the thing? Oh, yeah, he's all happy now. You can't see his face there. It's a big smile. You have to go around that way a bit, wouldn't you? Yeah. Can you reach? Yeah. How's this button? Hang on. Just don't jump the gun. Don't jump the gun. All right. You give a smile to the camera first. Will you come around here? Stand next to me a second. Yeah. See what a good-looking boy he is. Give him a wave and a smile. Are you on the camera? There we go. Right. Okay. Right, go on. Don't hit the camera too hard, all right? They all love this. This is like the favourite part of the show. Go on, yeah.
I don't hit it, only
Arnie does. Only Arnie whacks it. Arnie almost hit it through the window, won't we? All right, okay, so everyone, North Star all, good night all, peace, sending my love, do carry on tea, and peace, Heather. Go on in. Did that work? We have to wait now for the... Yes, it worked perfectly. I broke the microphone now. Right, I will read any comments. I'll leave the chat on for another 10 minutes if you want to leave some comments, any suggestions, anything like that. And then I will we'll put these boys to bed. Get back into school routine and get up early. Oh dear, long day tomorrow. All right, so no star, everyone. And you can carry on your chat for a few more minutes and I'll turn things off, okay? Take care.